Have you ever felt just paralyzed by a choice? And I'm not talking about what to have for dinner, I mean the big stuff. How to actually live your life. Well, today, we're going to dive into one of philosophy's most personal and provocative books, Søren Kierkegaard's Either Or. And it frames this exact question as the most important decision you will ever make.
You see, the book doesn't start with some dense philosophical argument. It actually starts with a mystery. An editor, this fictional guy named Victor Eremita, buys an old desk, and what do you know? He finds a secret compartment, and inside, two sets of papers. They're written by two different, totally unknown men, and they lay out two completely opposite ways of looking at the world. This whole setup is just brilliant because it immediately presents us with the central conflict, a direct choice, an either or.
So who are these two voices? Well, on one side, we have author A, who we'll call the aesthete. He's young, he's brilliant, and he is deeply cynical. His writings are this whirlwind of poetic thoughts, sharp one-liners, and a disturbingly cold diary. Then, on the other side, we have author B, the ethicist. He's a respected judge, older, much more grounded, and his papers are basically two very long, very serious letters written directly to A, trying to convince him that there's a better way to live, a path of duty, marriage, and real responsibility. So right there, those are the two lives we have to choose between.
All right, so let's jump into that first option, the seductive, dramatic life of the aesthete. This is the life of passion, of art, of living in the moment. But as we're about to see, it's a life that's actually built on a foundation of total and utter despair.
I mean, the aesthete's own words paint a pretty bleak picture right from the get-go. He's not just a little sad sometimes. He is weighed down by a melancholy so deep that literally nothing can pull him out of it. It's this constant, crushing heaviness.
And this deep sadness, it leads to this feeling of being completely stuck. For him, life isn't moving forward. It's like a stagnant pond. He's trapped. Every single time he tries to make a plan, to do something, it just collapses back on itself. He's just stuck in this eternal, meaningless present.
This right here, this quote gets to the absolute core of it. It reveals the aesthete's deepest fear, the engine that drives his entire way of life. It isn't actually death he's afraid of. It's something he thinks is worse, boredom. A soul-crushing absolute tedium where nothing, not even pain, can make him feel anything. He calls it dying death itself.
And that fear of boredom, it explains everything. The aesthete's entire life is this frantic, desperate escape. He lives aesthetically. What that means is he dedicates himself to chasing the interesting, pleasure, novelty, intense experiences, anything at all to keep that empty feeling away. He treats his life not as something to be lived with, purpose, but like a piece of art to be curated and consumed, one fleeting moment at a time.
And this whole philosophy reaches its darkest, most chilling point in the centerpiece of his papers, a section called The Seducer's Diary. Now, this is not some passionate love story. No, it's the exact opposite. It is a meticulously documented, chillingly detached account of the seduction of a young woman named Cordelia. And the goal isn't love or connection, it's to turn her into an interesting project.
And his method is just cold. It's a four-step process. First, he just observes her from a distance, like a scientist studying a bug. Then he starts to engage, setting up accidental meetings, writing these beautiful, poetic letters to build a fantasy. The third step is to conquer her, using psychological manipulation until she is completely and totally devoted to him. And then the final, cruel step, abandonment. The second she gives herself to him, the project's over. The interesting part, the chase, is done. And he loses all interest and just vanishes, leaving her completely destroyed. This is the aesthetic life taken to its logical and honestly horrifying conclusion.
I mean, living like this has to be exhausting, right? It's a constant, frantic sprint away from despair. And so the book asks us, is this really it? Is this the only option we have? Or is there another way?
And that's where the second set of papers comes in, from author B, the judge. He offers this powerful counterargument, a completely different way of life that's grounded not in escaping yourself, but in choosing yourself.
The ethicist's voice is immediately different. He's not trying to curate the interesting parts of himself and just toss out the rest. No, he argues for taking full ownership of your entire self. The good, the bad, the boring, the brilliant, it's all you, and you are responsible for all of it. This is a complete 180 from the aesthetics detachment.
So, what is the ethical life then? Well, it's a life that's defined by commitment.
The judge argues that a stable, meaningful self isn't something you just find by chasing new experiences. It's something you build, piece by piece, over time. And how do you build it? By making choices and actually sticking to them, through these universal human commitments like having a career, real friendships, and, for him, most importantly, marriage.
So the core ideas here are a direct shot at the aesthete's entire worldview. Instead of running from yourself, you choose yourself. Absolutely. Instead of looking for something new, you find meaning in duty. And maybe most importantly, the ethicist completely redefines freedom. He says freedom isn't being paralyzed by infinite possibilities. True freedom is the power you find when you make a concrete choice and build a life from it.
And when you put them side by side like this, the contrast is just wow. The aesthete lives only for the isolated moment. The ethicist lives in the flow of time, connecting the past, present, and future. The aesthete runs from commitment. The ethicist builds his entire life on it. The aesthete is trapped by the dream of infinite possibility, while the ethicist finds his freedom by making a real choice. And here's the bottom line. The aesthete ends up as just a spectator of his own life, which leads to despair. But the ethicist becomes the author of his life, with the goal of creating a stable, whole self.
So we have these two powerful, completely opposite ideas for how to live. So what's the right answer? Which one wins? Well, this is where Kierkegaard does something really remarkable.
He gives us no answer at all. The editor of the paper says point blank that the story is unresolved. We never find out if the aesthetic changed his ways or if the judge's arguments just fell flat. And Kierkegaard does this on purpose. He leaves the two worldviews locked in conflict. Why? Because the decision isn't for the characters in the book to make. It's for us.
And this is the profound final point from the ethicist. He frames this whole choice not as some heavy burden, but as a magnificent gift. The ability to choose, this either-or, is a treasure buried inside of you. It's the very thing that gives human life its unique dignity, its meaning. The act of choosing itself is what defines who you become.
The book ends, but the question just hangs in the air, pointed directly at you, the reader. It forces you to look at your own life, your own values, your own commitments, or maybe your lack of them. Are you living for the moment, or are you building something through time? Are you a spectator, or are you the author? That is the question the book leaves us with. So, which life are you choosing?